Hi, everyone. Welcome to our training tonight. Thank you for spending your evening with us. My name is Iris Wen. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the FRC training coordinator. We are super excited to have two senior advocates from Disability Rights California tonight to learn more about vocational services. First, we just want to briefly talk about what the FRC does here in San Mateo County. We serve families who have children with disabilities or special needs between the ages 0 to 22. We are staffed by parents and siblings of children and young adults with disabilities, and we provide support, information and resources, and referrals to navigate the systems that are out there. We also offer trainings just like this one, support groups, a resource finder, and a monthly e-newsletter. I want to give a disclaimer that the Family Resource Center is not a legal firm or legal services agency, and we cannot provide any legal advice. Any information provided by the Family Resource Center should not be considered a means of taking the place of legal advice that must be obtained through an attorney. With that being said, we invite you all to connect with us, and I'll go ahead and put our contact information in the chat. I also want to introduce our FRC team who is here with us tonight. We have Patricia Idrugo, who is our FRC supervisor. Next, we want to go over some general housekeeping items to make sure that our training runs smoothly tonight. We will be recording tonight's training for any families and providers who were not able to attend tonight. So we ask for your collaboration with the following guidelines. Please mute yourself when not speaking to avoid any background noise. You can have your video on or off based on your preference and comfort level, and we invite your respect throughout this training. As mentioned earlier, we are offering simultaneous interpretation today. So if you haven't already, please select the language that you would like to listen to this presentation in. You can do this in the settings bar under the globe icon and select either English or Spanish. And we ask that even if you are listening in English, please select English in the settings because this will allow you to hear the interpreters translate from Spanish to English if needed. And I will go ahead and put the instructions in the chat one more time for our Spanish speakers. We will be having a Q&A portion at the end of the training, so please save your questions for the end. You can go ahead and use the raise hand feature for any questions and comments. We encourage you to refrain from sharing any names or detailed information to protect your privacy and other families' privacy as well. And after you ask a question, please be mindful of making some pauses to allow our interpreters enough time to translate both the question and the answer. At the end of the training, we will be distributing a survey, one in English and one in Spanish, to collect your feedback on how our training went tonight. It will be completely anonymous, and it will help us better understand how to improve our trainings to serve you all. And last, we will be sending a follow-up email tomorrow with the materials from this training. Okay, and that is it for me. So now I'll turn it over to Disability Rights California. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Iris, and thank you, Patricia, for having us, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for your time in spending it with us this evening. On behalf of my team, myself, Lonnie Pfeiffer, and Raymond Kwong, and then your two presenters today, Marcus Vila and Riti Han. Raymond will formally introduce them shortly after I just share a little bit about our agency. We were formerly known as Protection and Advocacy. We are a nonprofit organization founded in 1978. We are federally mandated to provide legal services for people with disabilities. Some of the issues we work on can be anything from special education, public benefits, regional center services, housing, employment, and so forth. Our offices are located in Sacramento, Los Angeles, Bay Area, San Diego, and then our smaller offices are located in Fresno, Ontario, and Modesto. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Raymond, who will now introduce your presenters this evening. Thank you so much.
Good evening again, everyone. So we have our presenters today. First, we have Riti Han. He is an advocate with the Pathways to Work practice group. Riti comes to DRC with significant experience working with people with disabilities. most recently having spent 9 years with Harbor Regional Center as a bilingual service coordinator. He is fluent in written and spoken Khmer or Cambodian. Riti's passion for advocating for people with disabilities comes from his experiences as a Cambodian American and seeing how disability is seen as culturally taboo in his community. And our other presenter, Marcos Villa. Marcos Villa is a senior advocate with DRC. Marcos is a disabled veteran dedicated to helping people achieve meaningful and sustainable ways of life. Marcos spends his free time volunteering in the community and enriching in nature. So thank you both. I will put up the PowerPoint in one moment.
Thank you again, Raymond. Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be here to present this information about our program called Client Assistance Program, which is CAP and the DOR services. My name is Riti Han, like Raymond introduced. I'm here as a senior advocate, and I will also hand it over to my colleague Marcus to introduce himself again.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having us here today. Thank you to Raymond and Lonnie for your support and helping us to get here. And Marcos Villa, looking forward to talking about CAP resources and VR resources and how DRC can help you with accessing these resources.
Thank you.
Thank you, Riti.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. So to start off with, our presentation, I want to really inform that we here represent as a Disability Right California. I just want to make sure, because a lot of time we don't want people to be confused between so many acronyms, DRC, and then we're here to provide service about Department of Rehabilitation, which is the DRR. So I just want to kind of inform you guys, everyone about that. Like Lonnie said, we are actually one of the largest disability right organization in the United States. We was under protective and advocacy system. We was found in 1978 to protect and defend the right of people with disability. And our services are free. When you have any question or any concern about any disabilities, please feel free to contact us. Next slide, please. Next, I will be talking about Department of Rehabilitation Services, which is the DRR. So what does California Department of Rehabilitation do, which is the DRR? So what they do, they give service to people with disability to help them get job and live more independent life, which are called vocational rehabilitation, the VR services. The purpose of the vocational rehabilitation, the VR program, is to help people with disability to become employed in an integrated setting and self-sufficient. So what we mean by competitive integrated employment, it means work that is full-time or part-time. The person is paid no less than a minimum wage and no less than a typical rate paid for same or similar work by the employer for people without this disability for similar tasks and who have similar experience, skill, or training. Also, is eligible for same benefit as other employee and is in the community. So people with disability interact with people with disability. Cannot be that only people with disability, they are supervisor. Has the opportunity for advancing similar to people without disability in similar position. What is the role of the Department of Rehabilitation, the DRR? So what did DRR do? They provide VR service for in California, which is the vocational rehabilitation. They give applicant and client right to informed choice. I will talk more about it in the later slide about informed choice. They also work with the VR client and applicant to make decision about employment goal, services, and the provider of services. I will be talking about also the role of Department of Rehabilitation. They help people with disability to prepare, secure, retain, and advance in or regain in employment. Next slide, please. So who is eligible for the DR services? So people, a person with physical or mental impairment with a substantial impediment to employment, who has a need for DR service to prepare for, secure, retain, advance or regain employment, and who can benefit from DR services. SSI, SSDI beneficiary are presumed eligible unless the DRR provide clear and convincing evidence that the individual cannot become employed even with the VR services. So if you're SSI, SSDI beneficiary, you are presumed eligible. These are the phases of the VR process. First of all, you obtain the application. I will let you know later on about how to obtain the application. So once you get the application, you're going to go through a process called eligibility. So within eligibility, they are within 60 days, the application date that they are going through the eligibility process. Once you go through the eligibility process within that 60 days, they have 60 days to go through that. Then you what you do, you develop an individual plan for employment, IPE. A lot of time I want to really clarify about the acronym for IPE, because a lot of time people confuse about the IPE and the IEP. So IPE is more for the Department of Rehab, and IEP, which is individual education plan, that's for the school district. So I want to distinguish that. A lot of time people confuse about that term. So once you get eligible, and then you get to meet up with your counselor, your VR counselor, to form an individual plan for employment, which is the IPE. Within this IPE, you renew it, you meet up with your counselor, you come up with your plan. Employment goal, for example, you want to be a doctor, you want to be whatever you're really interested in doing. So that is your employment goal. Once you renew the IPE goal with your VR counselor, then that's when you start getting services from the DRR. When you get the services, you get a job, and then after you get a job, they will close your case after a 90-day successful employment. So knowing the timeline is really important. So find a job, close the case after at least 90 days of successful employment. And then the last one will be post-employment service if necessary. How do you obtain application for the VR services? One, you can apply online through www.drr.ca.gov. You can log on to obtain the application through there. You can also call the DRR, ask for the application in the mail. They can request for them to email the application to you through the postal service. And another one you can do is go in person to the local DRR office and fill out the application yourself. Like I stated during the eligibility process, it takes at least 60 days of the application to determine if the individual qualifies for the services. So always good to know your timeline. When you start applying for the application, put in the application, track your time within those time. Make sure that, they contact you within those days to start creating your IPE, which is individual plan employment. The next one is what we've been talking about, the individualized plan for employment, which is the IPE. Like I said, a lot of time people confuse between the IPE and the IEP, which is similar acronym, but it's different. The IPE is for the Department of Rehabilitation, and IEP is individual educational plan. Similar, but a different, agency. IPEs is like a contract between the DR and you. It contains important information on your employment goal and the service that the DR will provide. So make sure to always, when you create the IPE, always request to have a copy of your IPE. This is like a contract that, that provide you all the service that you need. The individual plan for employment, IPE, also will It's a one employment goal chosen by the individual. So each client, consumer have their own goal, and it is for individual client. It's developed and implemented consistent with the individual's unique strength, resources, priority, concern, ability, capability, interest, and informed choice. Include description of services and comparable benefit, and it's written on a DRR form. This IPE got to be agreed by you and signed by you in order for it to be in effect. So make sure that you renew it with your VR counselor, that you agree with it and sign it, because you want to make sure that you really want to do something that you really want. That's why it comes to the next slide. It's all important about informed choice. Informed choice is really important. It's a critical component for your IPE goal. It's applicant and client have informed choice throughout entire the DR process. This means that the DR help the individual to figure out an appropriate employment goal and services according to the individual need and interests. What I'm saying, informed choice is really important for each client, because you have the right to make your own decision. And throughout the process, you always will be included in there. And I will pass along to my colleague, Marcus, for the next slide.
Hello, and thank you for that, Riti. Just to say one more quick thing about being involved in every decision that is made. So the client should always be the person who is making all of the informed choices throughout the process from start to finish. Just like Riti was, stressing the importance of the IPE and how that applies towards helping a person achieve their job goal, that is also going to be the governing compass that helps the individual to navigate what their world may look like. And so any barriers that you're having, they should be listed in that IPE. If you're receiving extra services for addressing those barriers, that should also be something that's listed in your IPE. Your IPE at the very top, it should have your job goal. And we want to make sure that that job goal is accurate to where you're planning on achieving. And so now we're going to talk about maximizing employment. So the state VR service program is not intended to solely place individuals with disabilities in entry-level jobs, but rather to assist eligible individuals obtain employment that is consistent with their unique strengths, resources, priorities, concerns, abilities, and capabilities. And so in my past work, when I was a program director, helping my clients to navigate how they can maximize their employment, and in the same role that I'm playing within DRC as a senior advocate, my primary focus is informing the individual that I'm serving that they have a resource that's available to be able to help this person achieve their first job, achieve another job if they needed to consider alternative pathways. If we have a person who is currently in a workplace and needs help advancing on the job, like say, I just got hired as an entry-level administrative person for a staple company, and an opportunity came up where I maybe needed to seek help for computer skill training, maybe along the lines of advancing myself in office suites. That's also something that the DOR can help with. If you're a past client who already achieved a goal, who's maybe thinking about achieving another job goal, that's something to think about. Maybe we first tried out for our entry-level position, and now we're interested in possibly being an operations manager. And maybe I need to, maybe I need a bachelor's degree, maybe I need a master's degree, maybe I need a doctorate to help me to get there. And so keep in mind that if this is a service that can help you to achieve your employment goal, that is something that you certainly want to bring up to your counselor to help you to maximize the use of your employment. The DOR has a specific focus in competitive integration, meaning that we don't have to ever stop at entry level. We should always seek to advance, and we should always keep in mind that the DOR is there for our support. This is for your first job and beyond. These services are to help people to advance in their current jobs. So if you're having any challenges in your specific workspace, that can be anything from having technical issues to having communication issues to any other issue that may apply to your individual case. Bring those conversations up to your DOR counselor. Something else that I want to talk a little bit about when we're maximizing the use of our employment. If you needed any assistance with workplace accommodations, again, this is something else to bring up to your counselor. If the person needed, say, a technology assessment to help to understand what sort of adaptive technologies may be available to the person, again, this is something that I need to inform my counselor about. And next slide, please. So rehabilitation services. Services must be integrated and reflect the individual's informed choice. We are talking about a whole lot about informed choice, and is because it is so important to each individual. This is how we achieve our independence. This is how we make sure that we're getting accurate services that apply to what we need to help us to be able to progress in the workforce, or to help us to get to the workforce. So just really want to highlight, it is important that the individual person served is making their choices. If I'm a parent of a student, a person who is receiving these services from the DOR, I'm helping that person to make their choice, and I'm making sure that that person is in front of me making all the choices for themselves, giving them the support that they need. So parents and caretakers can be huge support systems in this. And so, of course, we want to make sure that the person is getting all the coverage and support that they need from the DOR. And at the same time, it's a good opportunity for that parent caretaker support system to reinforce the relationship and help that person to be able to stay making all the key decisions in their case. Next slide, please. How long does it take to develop an IPE? The DOR has 90 days to develop an IEPE from the date of eligibility. Now that means that there is a 3-month process that the DOR has to complete drafting the individual's IPE. Something else that I want to note is that the application process is moving very quick today. And so any person who is, talking with us today, who's interested in applying for DOR, now is a very good time to apply. Riti shared about the different timelines to expect in the application and even in the completion process. And something else that I just want to speak on is just please also know that any person who's applying today, they're typically receiving responses within 10 days. And so that means that, of course, they have, 30 days to respond, but we're seeing that happen a lot sooner. And so if you're a person who's interested in seeking these DOR services, do not hesitate to reaching out to your local office. Of course, we would be able to share that information if you needed help finding it. And this is something that's as simple as a Google search, Department of Rehab, DOR, the city I live in. And so just really want to encourage anyone who's interested in receiving services from the DOR to please call, to please apply. Next slide, please. So other criteria of the IPE. IPE should be reviewed annually for any changes if necessary. Now, what I need to understand as a client of the DOR is that my counselor should be reaching out to me at least once a year to go over my IPE. Any changes that I need to make, I can make at that time. And also, just as important for me to understand as a client is that if I should need my IPE amended for any reason sooner, it is your right. You can have that occur. And all that you need to do is to reach out to your DOR counselor asking for an amendment. Say, for example, I am currently a college student who's working to achieve my master's degree, and my overall job goal is to be an operations manager of a company. Well, 6 months along receiving educational services from the DOR, maybe I learned that I have a job opportunity, or maybe I need to ask about receiving tutoring support to be able to help me to carry over my classes. Well, I can reach out to my counselor and I can ask for these additional services. And in order to receive these additional services, then I would need to have my IPE amended. And so at that time, I would be able to get that IPE amended. So just bringing it back to center, if you are a client with the DOR, and that means that you have a completed IPE, individualized plan for employment, that plan should be getting reviewed by you and your counselor and your support team at least once a year. And also, if you should need to have additional conversations, you can do so by reaching out to your DOR counselor. Next slide, please. So here's some examples of VR services: assessments, counseling and guidance, physical and mental restoration, training services, maintenance, and transportation. We've talked briefly about the different VR services that are available. I mentioned earlier about the AT assessments, the assistive technology assessments. So there would be assistive technology assessments. You would also be able to request for basic skill assessment. Maybe I'm completely new to the workforce and I need help knowing who I am and knowing what skills I may have to be able to offer the workforce. The DOR can help with those early assessments. If an individual with a disability that is impacting their ability to use common technologies, like say a computer, you would be able to ask for an assessment to be able to see what sort of adaptive softwares, technologies, tools may be available to help the individual access the technology or to access the communication that they need. The DOR is also providing counseling and guidance, and this is a lot of what we're talking about, just general navigating the issues that I might be experiencing and the goals that I have intended for my employment future. Training services. This can be technical on-the-job training. Say, for example, I was recently hired for a job and I need help learning how to be able to function and operate on the job. The DOR can provide services to aid individuals to be able to integrate onto the job successfully. There's also maintenance. Maybe, I'll just use a real example. So we shared I'm a disabled veteran and I have a lot of back challenges. And so to help me in my work setting, I need to be able to have a workspace that is ergonomic, that has a desk space that can ascend and descend to help me to be able to just alleviate my body pain and to be able to keep working. That's something that you can go to the DOR for. That is exactly something that I went to the DOR for when my position went remote. And so just know that this is something that can help you in the workplace as well as in a remote work setting. And so the DOR can also help out with transportation. If let's say I'm a student who needs help getting to from school, and getting to from school is going to help me to achieve my employment goal, that's something that I would want to talk to my DOR counselor about. Now, there's different forms of transportation support that can be provided, and this is something that should be talked about with your counselor. Next slide, please. Additional services that may be available are interpreter services. And so just like today, we're providing interpretation services, and this is something that you have the right to as a DOR client. If you needed any sort of interpretation services, that's something that should be brought up to your DOR counselor. There are different methods of receiving those services, and what is important is that the individual being served feels comfortable and confident with the services that they are receiving. And so that is very important. That goes back to informed choice. When we're asking for interpreter services, we need to feel good about the services that are being provided. And so I would just want to be mindful of that through the process. We've talked about assistive technology. This can be assistive technology in the form of AI that can help a person with cognitive challenges to better access and communicate with computer technologies. This is also a service that can be provided to individuals who have mobility challenges, who maybe need to have adaptive gear and tools around their workspace, like say a keyboard that has enlarged keys that maybe is sitting on a swivel that can rotate to accommodate the person's mobility challenges. The DOR is also providing educational VR training services to include advanced and higher education. Just can't stress enough, really appreciative to be able to be here with everybody. And, I know that there's people out there in the audience today who they have big dreams, they have big goals, and maybe they're working one job today, and that is, something that's going to be great in their foundation and structure and helping to establish themselves. And, these people are just really ready to go. They want to run, they want to advance. And this is where, I feel the best about the work that I do. It's so important that each individual feels accomplished, that we feel like we're achieving work with nobility, that our work is bringing us purpose and meaning and value into our lives. And so if you see it in yourself that you want to advance, really encourage you to take that step. And it all starts with reaching out to the DOR and asking about competitive integrative training that may be available. And this can be specific to the fields that you're researching and working in. The DOR also offers supported employment services. So if, let's say, I've shared a few examples of supported employment, but another example can be, let's say I recently worked with a client who in the past had a TBI, and this client, along with wanting to go back to school to be able to find a new career, this person, they wanted to receive specific TBI training, and that's a service that can be offered. The same service can be offered to individuals who have cognitive challenges, where you would be able to request through the DOR cognitive skill training, memory skill training, executive functioning skill training, and just a few to list. The DOR can help out with personal assistance services, post-employment services. Something I like to share with other people is that when you complete your employment service, let's say, again, I was wanting to go to school to achieve my master's, to be able to be that operational manager. And to any person who requires a certain dress to get into the workforce, like say a suit, well, a post-employment service can look like something like that. So now I received the master's degree that I was pursuing, and I'm now working on getting into the workforce. I can go back to my DOR counselor and ask for post-employment services to include things like suits. And so that's something that I want to be able to share with other people, because if you're new to a career, you should really have an opportunity for a good start. This is something that you've worked hard to achieve, and you really need to do the extra work to make sure that you're getting taken care of how you need to take care of yourself, how you need to. And then a last piece is that the DOR can help out with tools and equipment. And so if I need adaptive technologies, we've talked a bit about that. That's something that you would be able to work with your DOR counselor on receiving. Next slide, please. So the closure of VR cases. Clients reach employment goal. The employment is maintained for at least 90 days. The individual and the VR counselor agree the job is appropriate and no more services are needed. These three thresholds must be met in order for the Department of Rehab to successfully close your VR case. If your case was closed for any other reason, you have the right to request that that case is reopened. And when you run into these issues, please keep in mind that Disability Rights California is out there. These are the types of issues that we're commonly working on. In a perfect world, we have a perfect IPE and it has all the resources that we need listed. And in a less than perfect world, sometimes those resources are missing. Sometimes my case with the VR is being closed without my knowledge, and I may feel like my options are limited, and that is not true. When in fact, all that I need to do is reach back out to the DOR, informing them that my case was closed without my participation, and you would be able to have that case reopened. Now, this is an issue that you hopefully do not have, and also something to keep in mind that it does occur. And so if your case is closed for any reason besides your participation, that is something that I as a client would want to look into. And Marcos, the advocate, encourages you to please keep in mind that DRC is here. We want to help you navigate that challenge. Next slide, please. What does the California Department of Rehab do? The Department of Rehab, DOR, also provides services to students with disabilities. These services are called pre-employment transition services, pre-ETS, or student services. And so this is a resource I can't talk enough about, because this is something that if I'm speaking to a person who is wanting to integrate into the job force, but they're in high school, so why should they be thinking about jobs? Well, totally not true. If they're in high school and they're ready for work and, you know, they're age 16 to 22, then they already qualify for pre-ETS through the DOR. And so what we should really be doing as advocates and, you know, teachers is informing our younger age students and younger age family members, letting them know that it is never too soon to start working on themselves as far as employment goes. And so as soon as that person is 16, they do qualify for pre-employment training services. Next slide, please. And so who can receive pre-employment training services? A student with a disability who is eligible for pre-ETS, regardless of whether they have applied to DOR services. Requirements: age 16 to 21, sometimes 22. In an educational program and receive special education or related services, or is a person with a disability for purposes of Section 504 plan. And so this is what I need to know if I'm helping a young learner to consider navigating employment services with the DOR. And again, just really can't stress this enough, at any parents of young adults who are in this age range, please encourage your kids to look into this type of a service. If they need help, help them through the process. This is a great opportunity to practice self-advocacy. And so in my past as a director, I would have my clients make these calls, and I would sit in the back and just help navigate the conversation as they go. It's a great opportunity to help a person learn self-advocacy while you're helping that individual to be able to access these resources at an early age, so that ideally when they're 21, 22, 23, they've already superseded these barriers by far. And it just really helps that person's trajectory for where they may go. Next slide, please. And so the 5 required student services. This is what the DOR is required to complete in student services. So help students explore what kind of job is right for them. Provide internship opportunities for work-based learning. Give advice about education opportunities after high school. Train students to be ready for the workspace, and train students to advocate for themselves. And so just going back to the top of the list, help students explore what kind of job is right for them. We've all been there. We've all been new to career, new to employment, and just new to the world of adult challenges. And we know that this can be a scary world. And for those individuals who identify as having a disability, it can also be a very difficult world. And so this service is really here to alleviate that issue and to be able to bring down that barrier, providing internship opportunities for work-based learning. That means that a person gets to build skills on the job while they are training. And so as a previous day program manager, I really believe that that's one of the most essential elements on the 5 requirements of learning job skills in a practical setting, having the opportunity to be able to build and gain that experience level and the wealth of knowledge that one would need to be able to achieve successfully the employment outcomes that they are after. Give advice about education opportunities after high school. Well, we talked about it a little bit just now. It is never too soon to get started. And so, especially for those young adults that are graduating that have it in their mind that they want to keep working, well, we as advocates and supporters in the community, we really need to reinforce that statement and help that person to keep on moving, keep on working towards achieving their goal. And so that's what the DOR is offering. They're giving advice about educational opportunities after high school, meaning that we're now going into summer. If I am a senior I may need to have this conversation. And so to any parents of seniors out there, please keep in mind that this is something that, you know, your young adult may want to explore and something that can help to benefit them in their employment seeking future. Train students to be ready for the workspace. Well, we've talked about this in different ways, but just keeping in mind that the DOR has many methods available to individuals with disabilities to provide trainings that are benefiting to the individual and that are specifically individualized to helping that individual to platform. Train students to advocate for themselves. We'll again talked a little bit about in the beginning, always give the person the opportunity to lead and drive their future. As parents and supporters and advocates, we can be the best reinforcement in that individual's personal system that helps them to be able to self-advocate, self-manage, and eventually lead lives and families on their own. Together, we can really do a lot of great work for our community and for each individual that's out there working through their challenges. And again, thank you so much to everybody for having us here. Please go to the next slide, please. What is the Client Assistance Program, CAP? CAP helps people with disabilities get services from the Department of Rehab, independent living centers, and other rehabilitation partners. We give free information and advice and advocate for consumers. We're happy to help you understand the process for getting services and give guidance along the way because we believe in you. And so just really happy to be here with everybody. I think it's always so great to be able to get out into the community and to just share about the different resources that are out there for people with disabilities who are experiencing barriers, especially when a lot of these barriers we just don't need in our lives. You know, if you're dealing with issues that are related to your specific DOR case, again, please keep in mind that our DRC and our CAP team are here for your support. Next slide, please. So thank you again to everybody. We look forward to hearing from you. More than anything, hope that you learned something helpful today that you can use. And please be sure to share this information with a friend. If there's anybody you know who may be able to benefit from this service, share a little bit about what you learned today. And thank you again to everyone. And thank you to the team for helping us get here.
Thank you.
And do we have any questions?
So if we could stop the recording and then we can go through questions.
Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you so much everyone for attending our training tonight. We appreciate you spending your evening with us and learning more about vocational services and the Client Assistance Program. A big thank you to our guest presenters, Marcos and Riti, for the super informative training and for answering all these great questions. And also a big thank you to our interpreters, Miguel and Louise, for their hard work tonight. As a reminder, we will be sending out a follow-up email with the presentation and any other materials, links, and resources related to vocational services. Okay, and that concludes our training. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
On behalf of all the FRC team, thank you so much for your spending the night with us, and see you in the next training. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Again,